what kind of tips do you have for any women listening who might have multiple kids under 10 and they're feeling like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing. Are they going to resent me for having a business? Like, what would you say to those women?
If I compare my relationship with other moms, didn't have jobs and they were stay-at-home moms and they were spending all the time with their kids, I do not see any difference.
Can you take me back to the early days of even wanting to start?
From an idea and from getting fired. That's how it all started. That was the best thing that ever happened to me. I had nothing and I had to make it happen.
What has kept you wanting to continue growing this business and remain CEO versus selling the company?
It's been a journey and I haven't even thought about that.
Well, welcome to the podcast again.
So nice to be here.
I'm so excited to be able to actually be in person. It's such a big difference. I was just saying, you were on our 30th ever podcast.
Well, you've come a long way, as we all did. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just shared with me you're celebrating 25 years of Rodial.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Tell me about this journey. 25 years. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. And it's funny, a lot of people ask me, did you ever think you would be where you are today? And I had no idea. I mean, I was born and raised in this tiny island in Greece. And I was always passionate about fashion and beauty. When I was 8 years old, I remember leaving my home and walking to the one and only newsagent that was selling all the international fashion magazines. So I would save all my pocket money and go and buy Vogue, Harper's, all the magazines, go back home, read them, absorb everything. And even though I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, I knew the type of woman I wanted to be. So that was where it all started. And I could visualize myself having this life. But I had no idea that I would be in beauty, that I would have my own business. This all happened.
And to see where it's come now, did you still think you'd be doing it 25 years in?
That's another good question. I think there's a lot of people in the industry, a lot of serial entrepreneurs who say, I'm going to build this business, I'm going to sell it in 5 years and then start something new. For me, it was, I am so excited to do what I'm doing. I'm going to take it a day at a time. The business is self-funded. We never got investment. We're still private. So there was never really a pressure to exit or an agenda to achieve certain things. It was, we're having fun, it's doing great, let's just grow it. And 25 years later, here we are. But there was no plan. That's a funny thing.
Oh, I love it. Okay, I have so many questions for you. I love what you've built, and you're one of those entrepreneurs that I really look up to because you've built such an amazing, amazing business. But from what I've gathered also from reading your book, because you've also just built a really full life. Your life hasn't always just been about your business. You've built a really full life. And I think that's such an amazing example. So I want to get into all of the things. Can you take me back to the early days of even wanting to start a skincare brand? Like where did you begin? Did you just have the idea and then it snowballed? Like how did that start?
When I was at university, that was Athens, Greece, I was studying English literature, and I wasn't really interested in studying. I wanted to work and make money and be in the thick of things. And I applied and I got a job as a freelancer for 17 magazine. And that was my first interaction with beauty. So I was doing beauty features and trying new products and going and interviewing people in the beauty industry. And that was the first time that I started seeing beauty products from the point of view of not just the consumer, but analyzing them. And at the time, there was nothing. We're talking 25 years ago, over 25 years ago. Everything was a basic moisturizer, a cream, a serum. That was all for all skin types, for everything. One size fits all. And I thought there must be something more exciting we can do within the beauty industry. But at the time, I was 18. It wasn't the right time for me. I wasn't even thinking I would do my own business. I just saw the gap. I continued my studies. I wanted to move to New York. I don't know, had a dream and made it happen. I wanted to live there. and I studied business while I was in New York. I was at Columbia Business School. I did an MBA. And when I graduated, I thought, like all my classmates, that I wanted to go into finance. Um, there's a lot of peer pressure when you are in one of those schools. And I got a job with a company called Salomon Brothers, first in New York and then brought me to London. So I'm doing finance, which was a lot of analyzing companies and doing presentations and a lot of M&A activity, and it was actually quite fun. But I found that 2 years into it, I needed to care about the company that I was analyzing. So when it was a fun company, it was all good, and then I started getting insurance companies and banks. I'm like, I don't like to analyze this. This is not interesting. So I started losing my excitement and I became a very bad employee, showing up late and not doing my work properly. And not surprisingly, one day I got fired. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me. So that was the time that I thought, I don't want to go back to finance. I feel that I have something to offer in the world of beauty, going back to the gap in the market. And that's how it all started, from an idea and from getting fired.
I love this. So from going to university, moving to New York, then moving to London, what was your upbringing like that inspired that level of independence? What did you have parents that really supported you? Did you see entrepreneurship? Like, how did that shape those big decisions you made?
My parents were always very supportive, but they were in such a different um, area. They are both teachers. They are retired now. And I had no inspiration from entrepreneurs in my family. My parents never understood what I was doing. They always thought I was crazy. They were supporting me. They were like, if you're passionate about this, go for it. And I always knew every time what I wanted to do, even if it wasn't the right thing. I had a passion and a drive for it. So they supported me psychologically, but then they didn't know to show me the way. I had to figure it out all myself.
I feel similarly. I feel like my family still to this day are like, what do you do? Like, it's so hard for them to comprehend because I know for them, they didn't even have that level of opportunity. So it's so interesting. And it's that whole conversation of are we born like this or are we made like this? And I truly believe I just kind of came out like this. Like, nope, I'm gonna go do my own thing. I'm gonna go forge my own path. And it sounds like you were similar, going and reading those international magazines. You had this drive inside of you that you wanted to leave and go do something bigger.
Yeah, 100%. I feel that when you have nothing and you try to make something out of yourself, the drive is bigger. I feel that if I was born in a family of entrepreneurs and we had businesses and the money was flowing, maybe I wouldn't be as motivated as I am today. But I had nothing and I had to make it happen.
I completely agree. I feel the same way. I think about what your business requires from you in those early days. I mean, it is a hustle. And I just think if I grew up with a lot, I probably wouldn't, I don't know, but I don't think I would have had that grit in me to just keep pushing and being resourceful, especially when you have a business that takes no funding. You have to be so resourceful that looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of glad I grew up like that. Do you feel like that way?
Totally. I mean, I'm grateful for everything my parents did, but they had no idea what was going on. So it helped me. It just, you have to figure it out. You have to hustle. I think that hustle is something that I learned since I graduated from school and went into the world of university and working. And I realized, I have to apply for that job and I have to go out and meet people and I have to go and start my business and I have to go and educate myself on how do you even start a business and put yourself out there. And it's hustle every single day.
Truly. So when you started your business, at what point would you say you started to feel like, okay, this business is really getting some traction? Like this could be a serious, real business.
It was year 5. We were doing okay. The first 5 years, we just moved into a proper office. I used to work from home, and not in the cool work from home days. When I was starting my business on my own, working from home wasn't that glamorous. So we just moved into our first office, and we were going to launch our first anti-aging serum. So I get a brown box from the lab, open the box, a beautiful serum I tried. It felt amazing, pumping, lifting, hydrating, everything I wanted from a serum. Um, the designers put together a white bottle with the name Anti-Aging Serum by Rodial. And I said, how are we going to launch this? There's so much competition out there. How are we going to compete with all the big brands? They have advertising budgets. They have celebrities. We'll go nowhere. So going through the ingredients, one of the ingredients related to viper venom. So I say to my team, let's call it snake serum. And they were like, oh my God, you're going to take us out of business. What are you talking about? But we were a small company. We had nothing to lose. So we capitalized on the name Snake Serum. We made the product black. We did a photo shoot with snakes, sent out a press release. And that was our first ever viral product in a world that we didn't have social media at the time. So virality could only happen through press. And the product went viral. It was picked up by Daily Mail in the UK. Then it went to the China Post, the Japan Times, or it went viral. And suddenly from selling a few hundred snake serums a week, we started getting orders for 10,000 pieces. Wow. So that was the moment that I thought, oh my God, this can actually be something big.
Wow. And how at that point did you even, because my entrepreneur hat's like, that's a lot of money to fund an order of 10,000. Like, how did you think about funding and supplying all of this demand that started coming your way?
When we started getting those orders, we had to negotiate with some of the new partners to prepay 50% of their order. And because they all knew we were a small company, we managed to make it happen. But it is a legitimate question. Like, you have to keep up with production and make sure you have the stock.
That's amazing. And was that the start of you really thinking about, I mean, it's such an interesting marketing strategy per product, right? Like, you go viral with one. Did you start thinking about, how can I inject this into all my products? Because your products, from what I see, it doesn't look like you've ever looked at what anyone else is doing. You've always, well, maybe you've looked and thought, I want to do everything but that, and done something very different. And so did that start the beginning of the way you were doing things?
Yeah, 100%. So after we had the success of snake serum, the next product couldn't be a lavender oil, if you know what I mean. Like, we need to keep up. And so with various ways, research became a big part of the business. The next big launch was the dragon's blood sculpting gel with a whole range. Then the bee venom, and we continued with that theme of unusual ingredients for targeted treatment. So that's how we've always worked. What's interesting is there was a time, probably 7 years ago, that I was following all these Instagram accounts, all these beauty brands, and this color was very trending, the millennial pink. I'm sure you remember the days.
Yeah.
Everything needed to be that beigey, pinkish hue. And looking at all the products that were picked up by journalists and everyone was talking about, they were on social media and they looked so beautiful. And looking at our products, they're the opposite. Bright corals and bright yellows. And for a while, for a few days, I sat down and I thought, oh my God, what are we doing? Do we need to repackage? Do we need to change the brand? I felt we were so off what everything else was happening. But then we sat down, we had a big brainstorming with the team. We redefined who the Rodial woman is. And I just decided at that point, I unfollowed every other beauty brand, so I wouldn't get all that noise coming to me. And we decided we are Rodial, we are bold, we are unapologetic, we use unique ingredients no one else is using, and we're going to stick with that. This is our DNA. Sometimes we will be on trend, sometimes we will not. But we need to be who we are, and then that way we'll attract the right audience.
I love that so much. And it's really goes to show that you live your core values too and not pivoting just because other people are doing that. And I remember that it was 7 years ago when it was the flat lays and it was such a different
Oh my
age of
God, the
Instagram.
flat lays, all the nude pinks, and all those, just so delicate
Mhm.
and
Brights, whites,
yeah, it
nudes,
was,
yeah.
yeah, it was such a moment. But yeah, we persevered, and it's all about staying in your lane
Yeah.
and knowing who you are. It's super important.
So speaking on Instagram, I feel like you guys were really one of the first brands that were pioneering influencer marketing, brand marketing on social media. Was that your decision to get on there early?
As all brands, we got on Instagram when everyone got on Instagram. TikTok, I got on TikTok a little bit earlier than the brand, just because I was bored in the pandemic, and I started doing a whole bunch of videos. Some fun, some, a bit. I cringe when I watch them now, but it is what it is. But I feel that we definitely want to do our own thing and be the brand who we recently had this viral video, which was the banana lowlighter, one of our bestsellers. It was a computer generated video that showed our product in a Knightsbridge building coming out with a giant hand and then going on top of some black London cabs and turning them banana yellow. So, for me, that was a moment that went viral. It got, I don't know how many millions of views, but for me, that was something we all sat down. We said, let's do something fun with the banana lowlighter, with London, with the taxis, with something that's computer generated that can be really cool. So, with social media, it's all about learning and unlearning the rules, because the thing is, the moment you learn the rules, you implement them, everyone else starts doing the same thing, and we all end up doing the same thing, trying to acquire the same customer acquisition costs are super high. And so yes, you can do paid marketing, but you also have to do unique and exciting things. There's no formula, it's not easy, but it's all about experimenting and trying new things, and some things will work, others won't, and hopefully you'll get a 10% success, and that's good enough.
And when you were on Instagram, especially in the beginning, and kind of I feel like a lot of brands and you guys were forging your way through, okay, what does it look like to partner with influencers? Does it have an ROI? What does it look like to actually brand ourselves? Was it Kylie Jenner you guys worked with back then?
Yeah, so I don't even consider her an influencer. She's Kylie Jenner.
Yeah. She's in a league of her
She's
own.
in a league of her own. Yeah. So what happened was that was about 10 years ago. And we, over the years, we work with a lot of makeup artists, including Mario. And we gifted Mario a whole bunch of products from our brand Nip and Fab. And he used one of the Nip and Fab, the glycolic pads, on Kylie Jenner. It was the time she was 16. She was just about getting into beauty, and posted on her grid about the glycolic pads, how much she loved them, by Nip and Fab. And suddenly, we had no idea this was happening. It was organic. We're getting a lot of calls. We're getting a lot of attention from people saying, "What is this Nip and Fab brand? We want to find out more." And it came to a point that I sat on with my team, and we thought maybe we should take this connection to the next level. So it was Monday evening. We say, let's just write an email to Kris Jenner. We write her an email. We thought we're never going to hear back. And then go to work the next morning, and here's an email by Kris Jenner saying, let's talk, let's do something. And On the back of that, we did 2 campaigns with Kylie Jenner for Nip and Fab. One, she came to London and we did 24 hours of lots of activation. So for me, the fun and exciting part of our collaboration wasn't that, okay, take this product and put it on Instagram,
Right.
because I feel this is done a lot. We brought her here, we did a photo shoot, we organized press interviews for her. We organized a Q&A with a live audience at Westfield. We did a tea party with InStyle magazine, which was around at the time, and we had a lot of influencers and press. So we created 24 hours of activations, and that gave us a lot of content. And it was the first time that someone like Kylie Jenner did a project and a campaign and an ambassadorial role that went beyond to, I'm going to send you that product and post it. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel that created a lot more depth in our relationship, and it gave us a lot more assets to talk about.
That's so smart to think about it that way. And I feel like brands have definitely started doing that a lot more in the last few years with the brand trips and the experiences, but I still don't feel like you see that as much. It's still a lot of the transactional brand relationships, which I think is so smart. What are some other moments you feel like in your brand's history, the snake serum being one, that kind of campaign where it feels like something just out of the blue hit and you didn't even think it was going to hit? Like, do you have a few of those?
Another one was when we were still quite young. It was around the time of the snake serum that we got a call from the one of the after Oscar parties to participate in a goodie bag, which, these days you don't even think about it twice. A goodie bag, if it's a cool party, you participate. But we were a small company and they were asking for 5,000 pieces of snake serum. That was a lot of money.
Mm.
And we would send the stock, but then you get no guarantees that you'll get anything out of it. So it's 5,000 products that you have to just forget about. And we were lucky because that year there were so many celebrities that attended and got a goodie bag, from Jennifer Lopez to Jennifer Aniston to Tom Cruise. Everyone was there. And then what happens with the celebrities is they all have contracts with the big brands. But then when they go and do an interview with the press, they always have to mention a product that's not part of the brand deal. So
Mm.
they all got to try snake serum. And because I don't know, the product is great, but probably they remember the name, it was something unusual. They wanted to talk about something new and exciting to the press. So on the back of this Oscar goodie bag initiative, we got a lot of press, in some of the major US magazines. So again, that was another moment that brought a lot of attention to the brand.
Yeah. One of those moments where you're like, okay, I'm going to try it. It's such a big investment. I'm going to try it. Let's see if it works out.
Yeah, and it did, but equally, it could have been 5,000 products that are wasted, and yeah, people took them and used them, but nothing happened. So, it's a risk, but I always say you have to take a risk.
Can you think of any risks that didn't pay off?
Yes, it was, that was a few years ago that we almost went bankrupt. And I
Wow.
talk about it on my second book. It's the introduction of how to make it happen. We were given an opportunity to launch 120 SKUs within 4 months. It was an exclusive with the store. They gave us tons of space to expand into a new category that I wasn't that keen on. But my team said, it's a great opportunity. It would be an amazing, we're looking at millions of an opening order. And even though my gut feeling was telling me, don't do it, I committed to doing it. It was a hard category. A lot of it was self-tan and a few other products. And we ended up within 3 months being delisted in most of the stores. So we took back the stock, and we were sitting on all this stock, and we spent all this money to buy it. So there was a point that we couldn't pay our bills. And I had to pick up the phone and speak to every single supplier that we had, try to get terms, and call the bank, try to get some credit lines until we sorted ourselves out, try to sell through the stock in alternative channels. So at the end, it was fine. It took me 9 months to clean it up. But honestly, I had so many sleepless nights. And that the one lesson that taught me was you have to go with your gut feeling. And I'm gonna be open with ideas, but when it comes to such big cash commitments and puts the company in such a big financial risk, at the end of the day, I'm gonna be the one there sorting out any issues. So I just have to be 100% comfortable with that decision. So yeah, it was traumatic, but I feel, it's a lesson and I've learned a lot, and we've come out of it better and more resilient, let's say.
In that situation, I definitely think there's this perception that when you grow this huge brand and, you have this big team, you're not as involved. But like you say, when a situation like that happens, you're the one with the sleepless nights. You're the one resurrecting this for 9 months. And I think that's just so important to highlight, because I think in business, there really isn't a like, set it, forget it, you walk away. Like, not when you're that involved in the company. So what is your day-to-day still like right now with the business? And like, are you the one that, when something does go wrong, you're the one fixing it in that sense when it's that grander scale?
Yeah, 100%. Well, first of all, I'm the CEO of the business, and I still own the business with my husband. It's a family company. We don't have external investment. So it's very different when you have a founder who has stepped back and there's a different CEO, and that founder is more there and has a small percentage of the business and does more of the creative stuff. I am a full-on founder and CEO. There's no one else that does the job. It's my job. Um, my favorite parts are the creative elements, sitting down, have brainstorming meetings. I also love the retail part of it, meeting with the sales teams, the commercial teams, looking at the initiatives, new business. I'm excited about new business. But I find that a lot of what I do is human resources and making sure that the team is right, making sure we hire the right people, there's the right fit, making sure that everyone's happy, we have a culture that everyone likes to come to work. And I do see my job as a firefighter a lot of times. So one day I will be having urgent meetings on a design issue that has come up, or another week I'm focusing on our web team, or there's an issue with a stock that I have to jump in and support. But the good thing is, because I've started the business from scratch and I've grown with it, I pretty much have seen every single department. I don't know the details of every department, some of them more than others, but I can give them the common sense that is needed and try to steer the situation into the best resolution.
What has kept you wanting to continue growing this business and remain CEO versus selling the company? Because I'm sure there's been so many opportunities.
It's been a journey, and I haven't even thought about that. But we have two brands, Rodial and Nip and Fab. When I first started, I was very much involved in both brands. Now I have taken a step back on Nip and Fab. I have a different team driving it. We're still sharing the same office, but it's a different team. And we have had requests for both brands from different parties. I feel that with Rodial, I'm very much connected. I am Mrs. Rodial, after all. It's the business that I started, so I'm much closer to that, and it would be very hard for me to let go. But we'll see. If I wake up one day and I feel that I've had enough and I don't have the excitement anymore, we'll see. But until then, um, as I say, with any job that you do, you have good days and bad days. It doesn't matter. I've had good days and bad days when I was a startup. Now, 25 years later, I still have good and bad days. It's never perfect. It's a different type of problem, but it's never perfect. So, and sometimes I feel, I just love solving problems. And if everything is perfect, I'm a little bit bored. So I always, maybe crave a little problem or two. And that makes you think from a different point of view and become more creative.
I love that so much. And it's almost like when you have that conversation and people would say, well, what would you be doing if you did get bored out? And it sounds like you're like, well, I'd want to be doing the same thing. Like, I want to be doing this.
Well, for sure. And as I said before, I was never going to be a serial entrepreneur. If I sold my business one day, I don't know right now if I would have the same energy to start a business again, or if I would start one, it would be something different. Like I've done 2 seasons of Dragons Den Greece, which is the equivalent of Shark Tank in the US. And I've actually invested in a few businesses that have nothing to do with beauty. And it's interesting because everyone thought I would go into Dragon's Den and invest in more beauty companies. And for me, the next step and the exciting thing would be to discover and learn and be a student in a different industry that I don't know. So never say never, but I'm definitely interested in a wider variety of industries. I love anything vegan. I'm almost vegan 98% of the times. And I like nutrition. I like health. I like wellness. So I have a lot of other interests that, I like to do outside beauty. So yeah, we'll see.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
So going back again, how old was your business when you started having kids?
So I started the business and then I had kids.
Okay.
And when I had my first son, the business has been around for a couple of years. I remember I was working at home and I had a couple of employees at that point who would come in. I had a home office and we would all work from there. And then I would also have some time with my son, but I did get some support to help me because I needed some time to be on the business and work. I couldn't be doing both at the same time. So I feel that because I had my kids and I had another boy 2 years later, so I have two boys, I find that I had my business and then when the kids arrived, they needed to fit in what was going on. And, as a mom, you always have times of guilt. I wasn't able to see this or, see that or experience everything they were going through. But that's a sacrifice we all have to make. If we want to have a career, if we want to have a business, we need to put the time there. But I find, for me, it was doing my work at the office. And when my office work finished, I needed to be at home in the moment with the kids. And even if I only had 2 hours, these 2 hours needed to matter. Because I feel sometimes, if you're on a weekend, if you're with the kids all day, sometimes like, okay, I'm so tired now, just watch something on your iPad or do something else. And I feel, if I had 2 hours, I needed to be 2 hours with them, being involved and having those conversations and feeling like we're connecting and I'm a mom. So it's challenging, but you have to have your priorities and there are sacrifices.
I love talking about this because I'm definitely in the thick of it. I have a 2-year-old. And I had my business before she came along too, but it changed everything for me. I had no idea what to expect. And so I feel like I'm very much in the thick of figuring out what all of this harmony and balance looks like. And what you said about that presence, I think is so important because you're always going to have the guilt, but I do feel like if you're present with work, the guilt kind of goes away a bit. And if you're present when you're at home, the guilt goes away. But when I'm at work thinking about being home or at home thinking about being work, the guilt starts to come in. And so I'm just curious, because you have really grown this business alongside watching your kids grow up, what kind of tips do you have for any women listening who might be in the thick of it? Say they have multiple kids under 10 and they're growing their businesses and they're feeling like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I going to mess up my kids? Are they going to resent me for having a business? Like, what would you say to those women?
Well, I can tell you now, my boys, they are 19 and 21 now. I have spent a lot of time with my work and they have seen me work. And if I compare my relationship with them with other moms that didn't have jobs and they were stay-at-home moms and they were spending all the time with their kids, I do not see any difference between the relationship that I have with them compared to my stay-at-home mom friends and their relationship with their kids. So if that's any consolation, I feel that if your career, your job is something that is really important to you, it's something that you need to persevere with and do the sacrifices, and your kids are going to admire you for what you do. And you may not see it when they're young because all they want is your time and they want things from you all the time. But when they get older, I feel there's this appreciation and it does get better. There is a point that it does get better when they're a bit older. I mean, my teenagers, I remember when we would all go back home when they were, say, 13. And I would go back home from work and we'd sit down and say, okay, hey guys, do you want to talk? And they're like, no, like me neither. And we all kind of took our iPads and did our thing. But, you know, it's something we all have to go through. But I don't feel that it's necessary to sacrifice your dreams because you're guilty. I feel there's ways that we can get organized. I've always trusted people and I trusted having someone to support with the kids, any help I could get. Some people have families. My family is back in Greece and I live in London, so I didn't have that luxury. But I would always make sure I've had someone there, whether that was a housekeeper, a nanny, someone that I trusted and I trained to make sure that they're there and give them the best support while I wasn't there.
I think that's so reassuring to hear, because I do feel like, our generation of running businesses and having kids, there isn't necessarily, a long blueprint of what this looks like and how this has been done. So I think it's so reassuring to hear actually there's been no difference, and comparing them, they're proud of what I've created. And do you feel like, because I know at the beginning we were talking about, growing up with nothing creates a big drive in you. And now your kids obviously have grown up with a very different life to how you grew up. How have you thought about instilling in them that sense of drive and ambition? Have you thought about that?
It's very hard to instill someone else ambition um, because, I find sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, and that's that. And I have two boys that are very different and both their personality as well as their level of ambition. But for me, it's important to just have those conversations at home and we talk about business. My husband and I talk about business and they listen. And sometimes we try to engage them, try to make them think big about their careers. And I think for me, just having those conversations, you cannot guarantee that if you're a hustler, your kid is going to be a hustler too. You can't guarantee that. But at least if you're having those conversations and you're showing them good examples and you lead by example, hopefully they will pick up some of that.
Yeah, I definitely, it's something that I'm thinking about too. I'm like, okay, I know where I got all of my drive from. How do I create a little bit of resilience in my kids? Because it's such a different world, I think, to grow up in. So it's like, it's so top of mind. Um, So another thing I want to ask you about is you've written 3 books, which how you've done that alongside everything is incredible. Um, your third book, so your first book was How to Be an Overnight Success, and I feel like that was such a business manual. I remember talking to you about that. I love that book. I think I consumed it in like a weekend. It's one of those that was like, okay, I need it all. Tell me about your second and third books and how they differ.
So my first book, How to Be an Overnight Success, it's my story from getting fired to starting a business to growing the business where it is today and all the challenges that I've gone through. What I love about the feedback that I'm getting is a lot of people who read it say, we cannot believe how honest you are about your challenges. And I think that's one of my trademarks in all my 3 books. I am very honest about every single challenge. I can't go out there and say, well, if you have passion and you work hard, that's all you need. Well, there's a lot of other things that you need, and I talk about them in the book. Um, the second book was, I was getting a lot of feedback from the first one, from people saying, I love your first book, but can you write something that's motivational for everyone, whether they are in the business world or not? So my second book, Make It Happen, is a motivational guide that takes you from, let's say you have zero motivation. It's find your inspiration, set your goals, and it's a 10-step plan on how to get motivated and achieve your goals. And also I have a chapter there on how to combine work and family, because that wasn't something I covered in the first book, and I got a lot of requests. So it's in book number 2. And then the third book is called How to Live Your Best Life. And that is all about being successful while being zen about it. So it's a manifestation, motivation guide. So it takes you through the steps to success, but also takes you through things like when we compare ourselves to others and we self-sabotage. It talks about boundaries and how these are important for us to be happy. So it's how to be happy while you're chasing success in a way. So it's a little bit different. It's more zen. A lot of people say, "Oh, I prefer your third book." The third book is very different, but it still has examples from my work. All 3 books have examples from working with the Kardashians, because there's always a drama there and how we dealt with it.
Wait, can you share a drama?
One of the dramas, yes. So we were doing the second campaign with Kylie Jenner in LA, and she had a stylist, Monica Rose, at the time, and she brought all these fabulous dresses that she borrowed for the day. And there was one dress that she wore by the British designer David Coma. It was half black, half white. She wore it at the blue carpet, the red carpet. We called it blue. For an event fab. And the stylist comes in and says, I need to ask you something. And we're like, what? Kylie wants to wear this dress. She has a date with Tyga in the evening. They go to Nobu, and she would like to wear the dress. So we would like you to buy the dress for Kylie. And it wasn't a cheap dress. It was quite an expensive dress. And if you think about it, we're a small company. We did pay a lot of money for the campaign, but, every dollar counts. And that was, thousands of dollars. And it's like, that sort of goes past the point of the campaign. But because we didn't want to ruin the relationship, we said, okay, we'll buy the dress. She can wear it. And then I called Kris Jenner the next day and I said, thank you for everything. I hope, you guys were happy. I'm going to send a courier to pick up the David Coma dress. Thank you very much. And I sent the courier. And because she wore the dress, we bought the dress.
Yeah.
And I just needed a memento of our time together. So that dress is sitting in my closet right now.
Oh my goodness,
the Kylie Jenner dress.
You're like, have you ever worn it? Have you gotten anywhere?
I actually did. I did just after the campaign. I haven't worn it since, but it is sitting there, and it's sort of piece of history, right?
You're like, listen, if I bought it, I need to. I have to know, because my impression of Chris is that she is just an absolute boss. Like, what is she like?
She is a boss,
Yeah.
and that's about that. She is the best manager ever. I feel that her daughters are very, very fortunate to have a manager like her, because she cares. They're her kids, but her business sense, it's um, it's very unique. But also, that she's very smart. So with both the campaigns we did with them, they only signed, we were negotiating with them for 6 months. They only signed the contract 48 hours before they were about to get into a plane.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of an uncertainty that goes with that. And obviously, I get it. Something better may come along and they don't want to have that commitment. But she's very smart and boss-like, and yeah, she runs a very tight ship over there, the Kardashians.
Yeah, I always look at that, and I think people have so many opinions, and I just think, you can say what you want, but no one builds an empire like that without running a tight ship and being very, very good at what you do. They say they don't have talent, and I look at the empire they've built, and I just think that in itself is a talent to me, to build an empire like that. I think I think it's incredible. Okay, I know we're flip-flopping a lot. I want to go back to the family conversation, because I know that you mentioned it about it coming through in threads in your second and third book, and people asking you a lot about that. Working with your husband, that must have been a really interesting dynamic. I tried it for about 6 months and I was like, yep, we're probably going to get divorced if we keep going. So let's go on our separate paths. And I think that in itself is so admirable. So can you talk to me about how you've both managed this?
So when I started the business, my husband was a co-owner, but he wasn't involved in the day-to-day running of the business. He had another job. And there was a time, and he was in the finance industry, when everything collapsed. He said to me, well, I own 50% of this business, so I'm going to come and be the CFO. And at the beginning, I thought, oh my God, this is such a bad idea, because I always felt it's my company. Even though
Right.
he was a co-owner, I always felt this is my thing, that everyone, knows me, knows what I want from the business. And I was really scared how this dynamic would work. Um, the good thing is that we're extremely different. And there were enough departments in the business that we have almost zero interaction. Um, he deals with finance, operations. He's very good with tech and IT, and contracts, legal, everything that I don't want to deal with. And in a way, I didn't know how that would work, but it's worked fine because we're both very independent. It's not that we wake up in the morning and we get in a car and say, "Hey, darling, let's go to work together." We have our different meetings, we have our different appointments. Everyone goes to work whenever they need to. We have our separate meetings. Even in the office, we meet different teams, and the conversations are very different. So I feel because of that reason, it works because we're not on top of each other. We have very, very different skills.
Yeah.
Um, and so from my point of view, because I've had a lot of people managing the sort of CFO duties over the years, and when someone resigned, it was like, oh my God, it's a crisis. And he was, we were discussing all this. So in a way, I was happy to just have a family member come in and take over this part that was always a little bit challenging for me. Every time someone left, like, oh my God, what are we doing now? I have to recruit and I have to get involved with that side of the business. So yeah, it was scary at the beginning, but it's working.
And how long have the two of you been married?
So it is actually a 25th year anniversary this year.
You
So
need to
yeah,
just think big this year.
it's a lot of 25s, right? We've been together since since university. So we've been together
Wow.
forever. Yeah.
And so how have the two of you, what are your secrets? How have the two of you navigated building this huge company together, bringing a family into the world together, building your empires together? How have you navigated staying together and prioritizing your marriage? Because that's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I have recipe to share with you. I listen to people saying, "Oh, we have date nights," and we do nothing like that. We just, I feel that we have a lot of similarities in terms of we kind of don't like to go out that much, so we're homebodies, and we like to be after work to be at home with the kids. And then we like similar things when it comes to holidays and. Um, it just sort of sharing a similar, how do I say this, a way of living. Like
Mhm.
if one wanted to party every night and the other wanted to stay home and watch Netflix, that would be an issue. But I feel because we both want to stay in and watch Netflix, that works.
So the two of you, have you always been intentional about talking about what your shared vision is for your lives?
um, I don't think we ever had the time to do that. Um, yeah, we may, but not there's no structure to it. So
Yeah.
let's just, sit down and have a meeting. It's, oh, wouldn't it be nice to, like I said to you, we have a place at the Cotswolds. And, I think maybe property brings us together because that was a project to find it, to, when you buy a property as a couple, you have to both like it. And that's a challenge. I find that finding property that you both like to be a challenge. And we got that. And then we spent time decorating it and make it our own. And I feel, projects like that brought us together and without necessarily sitting down and having a vision board about what would the life in Cotswolds on the weekends look like. It was more about, okay, well, wouldn't it be nice to have a house there? And we manifested that.
I love that you are like, I'm not just gonna give this advice because I think I should, like, here's how we've done it. And I really, really like that because I actually do think in today's age, a lot of people are just giving so much advice that maybe they aren't necessarily following. So I love how honest your response was. Like, we didn't have time for that.
Mm.
I love, love, love that. Um, so when it comes to, we kind of started with this at the beginning, and it seems like that was also a big theme of your third book. When it comes to living a full life, a good life, how have you been able to build something like that alongside having this huge company? How has it not consumed every part of your being, and how do you still find the time for yourself and living a life you want to live alongside that?
To be honest with you, I feel we still work too much. I would like to work less, but it is what it is. There's a lot of responsibilities. I do see some friends of mine who they don't work or they have, more freelance type of jobs that they have more time to be away for the whole summer or take longer holidays. And, don't take me wrong, I would love to do that at some point and kind of take a step back a little bit. So it's hard to do it right now because there's a lot of demands in the business, but having our weekends off and that's sort of a great escape and something that we can look forward to, even if we cannot travel, if we cannot fly. We know that every Friday after work we'll drive to the Cotswolds, we'll be there for the
Mhm.
weekend, we'll meet friends, we'll hang out, we'll be in nature. And for me, that's something that really keeps me going when at times I'm stressed during the week. I know I'm going to have this beautiful weekend in nature. So that's that. And then planning fun things to do. Sometimes we'll plan a fun family holiday months in advance or a last minute thing. Oh, let's go and do this. So I feel it's important to always have things that you look forward to do. If there's nothing that you look forward to, you kind of have to sit down and say, okay, well, let's just plan something.
Mm.
So back in April, we were so overworked, like January to March, we're working nonstop. We had zero holidays. And so we booked a last minute trip to somewhere warm. And that was booked a week in advance. And it was just my husband and I. The boys weren't interested anyway. And we went. It was a last minute thing, and it was great. So some things you plan, others it's you know you both feel burned out, so you decide to do a last minute thing. But there's always something like plan a dinner. Like yesterday, we haven't been out for a while, and I said, okay, let's go for dinner tomorrow. And now when we finish the podcast, I'm gonna go back and we're gonna walk in Notting Hill, and it's a beautiful day here in London, so we'll sit outside and have a meal. And it's not something we do very often, but we have to make an effort to do something that takes you off the routine, and you're so fun, Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I know. So for Netflix is so good. My husband really wants us to do more dates, and I'm like, I just love staying in. Especially when you're talking to people all day long, you just want a dinner.
I know. I find that I don't know if we do dates. We probably, if we go out, we'll organize with a few other friends. Like
Mhm.
it's nice to have that energy of other people around you, because we're at the office all day. So,
Right.
it's the same energy in the evening as well. So we'll go out with friends, and I find every time I almost force myself to go out and then meet people and be in a place that has great vibes, I get that energy back and I go back home and I'm so regenerated. I'm like, why am I not doing this more often?
Yeah, I love this. I also love that you have that place. You drive to the countryside every weekend. You know, if it's a crazy week, you have that. That must be so good for your nervous system. I am obsessed with being in the country.
I mean, I never thought that I would love the Cotswolds so much,
Mm.
because I come from Greece. And when I came to London and people were like, we're going to the country. I'm like, why? It's just some green and trees. And for me, weekends and country is more islands and sea and sun and swimming. And that's how I was raised. Um, but with the time, I really appreciated the English countryside, the green, having long walks with a dog. I mean, this is so non-Greek for me, but I love it.
You've been here long enough that you're being converted.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I know. I did not think that when I moved to America 12 years ago, I would never have thought that I would even think about having a place here. But being there, there's just something about the English countryside that you don't get anywhere else. And I just knew as soon as we had Noemi, I'm like, Stephen, I think it's time. I think we need a place.
Yeah.
And just to be able to come here and spend summer here is like an exhale, because you go back and it's go, go, go. And so that is, I love big moments and like that. So can we talk about your morning routine? Talk to me about what you do from opening your eyes to when you get to work. What does your morning routine look like? And tell me about your skincare and things like that.
I talk about in my second book, your 5 a.m. wake up call to success. I was very strict a few years ago. That was before COVID. And I had to wake up at 5 in the morning. And my routine was very extensive: meditation, reading a few pages from a book, working out, making the plan for the day. And I felt it came to a point that, yes, it was a great way to start my day and get into the right mindset, but it was too much. And I didn't need to wake up at 5 in the morning every day. So I've relaxed it a little bit right now, and I want to make sure I have an hour before I need to go to the office. So I don't like waking up, getting dressed, and rushing to the office or rushing to start my day. I need that time. And it could be one of those things. It could be some days I will meditate when I feel I need to calm down or have anxiety. Other days I will go to the gym or go for a walk. Um, and other days, I'll read a few pages from a book, listen to a podcast, or I could do that while I'm walking to the gym. or going for a walk. So I'm less rigid, but I do all those three things before my day starts. I think for me, Mondays are super important because I have to set the tone for the week for my team. So I take about an hour in the morning sitting down, making the plans for the week. What do we want to achieve? I may go back to some of the emails from last week to see what are some of the pending issues that we haven't resolved. Go on social media, remind myself of our campaigns. And it's very important for me when I go to work on Monday morning, when we have our Monday morning meeting, very important to set the tone for the week. I mean, that's the least that I can do, right? It's important. So usually that's the Monday. We have what we call the Monday morning managers meeting. So everyone who is a manager comes to this meeting and they talk about their week, what's coming up, and what do they need from the other departments. So it's a meeting that they can all get together, get information, but then that also prompts the next meetings that need to happen between the teams. And it's very important. And sometimes, I'll say, I'll take a Monday off. I can never take a Monday off because it's such an important day to really set the tone. And I feel once we have a successful Monday morning meeting, then that's great. Now, the rest of the day and the week, if I have external meetings or lunches, I prefer to do them lunchtime or after lunch because I do like the time in the morning is my creative time and I am better with my teams and I leave all the other meetings later on in the day. When it comes to the week, I find that I can be creative and do, if I need to work on social media or write an article or just do something that's non-business related, I would do them probably on a Thursday when I've sorted out most of the issues of the week, and then Thursday sort of easing into Friday and the weekend. So it gives me a little bit more of an open mind to do something creative. So if the team comes to me and says, "Oh, Maria, can you film a tutorial about this new lip oil that we launched?" I'm like, "Okay, we have to wait until Thursday." You can't. That's the thing with business owners. We wear so many hats, and we're expected to do so many things. Manage a team, do the HR, come up with new products, and then film a tutorial. And then it's like, and the social media team is like, "Oh, Maria, I haven't seen you on the feed for a while. You haven't done a tutorial." Are you kidding me?
Like I'm running the business.
But you have to do it all, and you have to find time.
Yeah. And what's your skincare routine in the morning?
I always use a balm cleanser. I use the Bee Venom cleansing balm. My skin was always sensitive with breakouts. So a dermatologist told me years ago, use a balm cleanser. That would be the best for your skin. And so I've created the Bee Venom cleansing balm, and I've only ever used that. We have other cleansers, but that's my favorite. Then I use the Bee Venom serum, or sometimes I would use the Dragon's Blood sculpting gel that is plumping, hydrating, and it sort of gives me a little bit of a primer effect. Sunscreen all year round. And then I would use one of our low lighters, depending on the day. We just launched the new Latte Low Lighter that is an under eye brightener, but I just use it for all over the face.
Tell me what a low lighter is.
A low lighter. A low lighter is it's something between a brightener and a concealer. Okay. It's not a concealer, so you don't need to match your skin tone. But what it does is it really brightens your under eye, and we have 3 shades. We have the banana, the peach, and the latte.
Okay.
And so for me, for example, I would use the banana low lighter for a super bright effect. If I'm on camera, if I'm on Zoom, if I go out to a party, I really want that bright light under me. But for an everyday look, I want something that matches my skin tone and it's a little bit more neutral. So I would use the latte low lighter.
Okay.
So they're all stretchy colors, and you can use them. And that's the banana lowlighter became a massive success during the pandemic because the stores were closed and everyone wanted something under their eyes to look good on Zoom calls. And you
Oh,
couldn't go to stores and match a concealer. So they're like, okay, this is for all skin tones. Let me get the banana lowlighter. And anyway, this is one of our best sellers. So that's my routine in the morning. I mask a lot. I don't have time to do facials. And if I have time to do a treatment, I'd much rather have a full body massage.
yeah.
I don't believe in facials because I cleanse my face quite well. I know what to use and I mask all the time.
How often are we talking?
How often? At least once a week.
Okay.
And what I like to do is, when I have a night in, again, I'm on my sofa watching something on Netflix. You would think that's all I do.
Same. I'm obsessed.
And put on a mask. And actually, I would leave it on, even though some of the masks say leave them on for 20 minutes, I leave it on for an hour.
Okay.
Or have a bath and put the mask on. And or if I'm doing a photo shoot or I'm filming something, I would put a mask on before my makeup. It makes such a huge difference, gives you a beautiful glow, especially our new bee venom mask is insane. It's so good. It's all gold, very indulgent. So yeah, I mask a lot with all our masks. And yeah, I'm pretty simple with uh, my skincare.
And so, for someone who's listening who might be new to the brand, which I would be very surprised if there's anyone new, but if they're new to the brand and they want to start with, say, 3 products, which 3 products would you recommend?
Okay, I'm gonna pick some different products to the ones I
Okay.
mentioned. I feel that, and this is a bestseller in the US, so I have to call it out. The Dragon's Blood Cleansing Water. It's a micellar water with hyaluronic acid. It's a massive bottle. It's like like a makeup expert's size, and it's great to remove makeup, cleanse your face. It also removes eye makeup. So this is an amazing product. Um, then I would recommend the vitamin C pads. These are exfoliating pads that are great if you have texture skin, if you have acne, breakouts, pigmentation. It is such a transformational product, and that is your toner step.
Right.
And then I would continue with, I would say, with our bestseller, which is the Dragon's Blood Sculpting Gel.
Right.
These are the 3 products. I would also have to add the lip oil.
I'm wearing this and my lips feel
Oh
amazing.
my God, it is. There are so many lip oils in the market, but our lip oil, honestly, everyone who tries it, I have friends who buy 10 at a time
I
because
can tell.
they need to have one. Yeah, the same in the bag at the office. I have one in the kitchen, one in the bathroom, one in the bedroom. They're everywhere. Like everywhere you go, it's like a treasure hunt of lip oils. And we had the original color, the baby pink, and now we've launched 4 more shades, and they're amazing because you can get a little bit of color as well, and it feels like a pop of color, but it's vegan collagen, cherry oil. It's such a natural product. So yeah, we're obsessed.
It's so hydrating as well for podcasting for so long. It's so hydrating. I was just telling you we had Rosie on this morning and I was telling her we were interviewing you and she just pulls a lip oil out of her bag. She's like, "Have you tried this thing? This is incredible." So that's the product I'm going to recommend. It feels so good. It's so light.
It's light, and it took us years to figure out this formula that is non-sticky. Because the problem that I had with a lot of the lip oils, you put them on and then they're sticky and they dry out after a
Oh my
while.
goodness, and when your hair sticks to your mouth,
Oh my
it's
God.
the
Okay.
worst.
That's not a good look.
It's not a good
No.
look. And yeah, I'm over it. I love it. Well, Maria, thank you so much for being on. This was such an amazing interview. And I have to say, I think one of the most impactful things that you've shared on this for me, and I think will be the same for our audience too, is just how possible it is to build a really successful business and still have a really great relationship with your kids, your partner, Like you really are setting a blueprint, and I'm so grateful for women like you blazing the way, and that's had a real impact on me. So thank you so, so much.
My pleasure. Thank
Um,
you.
where can everyone find you?
So I am on Instagram and TikTok at Mrs. Rodial, and my books are available on Amazon, and we have a book account called Overnight Success Books.
Amazing. I loved Overnight Success. I read it in one weekend, and it was it was motivating, but it feels like a manual of like, here's different steps of all the steps you took to get started, and it was such a game changer for me. I read it, I think it was 4 years ago now. I'm gonna read your second book this weekend. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you for having me.